In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through how to do a picture where you fill shapes within the picture with other photographs. And ideally, you've put some thought into what pictures are going to go in to those shapes so there is some sort of contradiction or contrast and it's strange for the viewer. So here's my final product. It's not completely done. It has some rough edges, but this is kind of what we'll be working towards. So I'm going to delete a bunch of these layers and we'll back up and see how I got there. Alright, so I'm going to start with this senior picture that I took of my cousin Megan a couple years ago. And I'm going to fill all of her skin with a picture that doesn't fit. I mean, she's sitting in a field of flowers, her hair is kind of pulled to the side, it's a very soft looking picture, so I wanted to fill it with something that was more gritty. So the first thing I had to do was make a selection of all of her skin. To do that, I'm going to use the quick selection tool. I think it's the best tool for the job in this case. If you're working with something that has really straight lines, the polygonal lasso is probably a better choice. The magnetic lasso can work sometimes, and if you're lucky enough to have something that's a solid color, the magic wand tool may work as well. But for me, the quick selection tool is just the best for this project. Now I already went ahead and I used the add to selection brush, so you can see my brush has a plus in the middle, and I painted all of her skin, and then I held down Alt, which changes, changes my brush to a minus, which means I could take out parts where Photoshop selected too much. I'm not going to make you watch me do that again because it's kind of tedious to do and you want to take your time when you're doing it, so you want to make sure you get a really good selection to begin with. So I'm going to deselect this, and I saved that selection so that I can reselect it later on. So watch this. Select, load selection. At this point I only have one, it's called skin, and I'm going to say OK, and it's going to reselect all those areas I selected before. Super helpful. So I'm going to deselect that and show you how I created a saved selection. Instead of doing her skin, which will take a long time, I'm going to do her shirt because it's nice and plain. So I'm going to make a selection of her shirt. That's pretty much it. I'll leave that black strap there. Then you go up to Select, Save Selection, where it says Name, give it a name, and say OK. So later on, if I ever want to select the shirt again, I can just go Select, Load Selection, and choose the shirt. Now with my skin selection loaded again, I can see that it needs a little bit of work. It's a little rough on some edges. It's not perfect. There's some spots I need to work on it, and there's several tools in Photoshop that we can do to kind of smooth it out or feather it or expand it. And these are all, if I go to Select, Modify, this is what I'm looking at. Smooth will take any jagged edges, actually it will take all of the edges, and smooth them out, and you can decide how many pixels to smooth it out. So you would lose things like this area right here where it's kind of jagged, it's going to round it out. This little bump right here, it's going to smooth that out depending on how many pixels you put. You can also expand. That's kind of broad. It's going to make your selection bigger by a certain number of pixels all the way around. So I wouldn't want to do that because that's going to go everywhere and I don't want to lose this nice edge here on her arm, for example. But in some cases that might work. Contract does the opposite, and feather creates like a soft edge. So you can try any of these to try to get a better selection. And you can do, most of them it's best to do right at this stage, but some things we can do to kind of fine-tune it later on also. So what I'm going to do is show you the two methods for putting this together. One is editable and one you're stuck with where you put your picture right after you put it. So I'll show you that one first, but I'm not sure that it's the best choice, but it's easier. So I'm going to deselect this. I'm going to drag in a picture that I want to use. I'll try this one. Picture I took in San Francisco. Drop it in. I know I need to cover her skin, so at least move it and stretch it so it's there. And then I'm going to go back and load that selection again. Select, load selection. I want the skin. And I'm going to click on my new picture layer, which is layer 1, and add a layer mask. So it masks it. You can see the black is hiding all of that peeling paint from that picture except in the white areas where her skin is showing. That's quick. However, if I decide that I don't like this particular area of that wall, I can't move it around because it moves the whole selection together. So that way is not the best, but it could work if you're very sure that that's the area that you want to expose. I'm going to back up and let's drop in another picture. We'll try this one. Drag it in. Make sure it fits. I'm going to go back and load my selection again. And this time I'm going to create a new blank layer. And on that layer I'm going to fill the selection shape with black. Edit, fill, or you notice it tells you Shift F5 on the keyboard will do the same thing. And I want to fill it with black. So if it doesn't say black right here, make sure that it does. Say OK. So now I'm going to have, if I turn this off, I have a black blob on layer 2 in the shape of all of the skin. I can deselect now, Control D on my keyboard, so that's not blinking and annoying me. I can turn my layer 1 back on and I want to clip layer 1 to layer 2. Alt, click. And layer 1 needs to be on top. It's a clipping mask so that this picture is clipped to this shape. The nice thing about this is with the move tool, if I decide I don't really like it like that, I can move it, I can stretch it. Just kidding, not that layer. This layer can be moved, stretched, even rotated. Now you still have to, you'll notice when I pull it away, I'm exposing some of that black. That's because I didn't stretch this big enough. So now I could decide I want it to look like that and modify it as many times as I want. I can also go on this layer and decide if there's any areas that I missed. Like I think, if I zoom in here, yes, on her strap here of her shirt, my selection is not that great. You can see some of her original skin showing through. So really it should be black. So I can get a paintbrush and I can go in and fix this up and fine tune it to make it look nicer. Some things you'll have to decide what to do with, like her wispy hair here, I think it's just gonna go away. But I could go in here also and make sure that this edge is nice and soft. So my brush is not a hard brush right now. It's about 43% hardness. So as I paint, it kind of softens up that edge. So I can kind of clean that up because I know that I'm always working with this black shape. So that gives you another way to fine tune it. If I drop any other pictures in here at this point, they will likely, depending on where I was before, clip to the layer also. And if they don't, you can have multiple layers clipped together. Whichever one's on the top is the one that's going to show. So for the bell tower look that I had at the beginning of the video, I actually inverted it. I wanted it upside down. And I can modify this because I chose to do that solid color layer. I could even leave both of these exposed. Now she's got these arms made out of that metal number thing, and then her face is more of the bell tower. I could leave that. Kind of like that the picture's like colorful, and then this is this stark. It's actually an HDR in black and white. All right, so if I wanted to do something else, like I wanted to do her shirt, I could go back, load selection. So you may want to have more than one picture in here. I'm going to choose shirt. So now the shirt is selected. Again, I could make a new layer and fill that shape with black. So now there's that blob, and I could decide, okay, well, I like the tower for her face, and now I'm going to move this down here and clip that together. So now that metal thing with the numbers becomes her shirt, and the tower becomes her face. Now this is way too big to be able to see any of the details, so I'm going to shrink it down and move it around. I want those numbers on there. There we go. And if I wanted to fine tune it, if my selection was not very good, again, I go in with a black paintbrush. They're around her hairline. It's not awesome here. So I could go in with a black paintbrush and just kind of paint that in and make it look a little bit better. The goal is that it's weird, it makes the viewer think by the pictures that you selected to fill those shapes with. So hopefully that is helpful to starting you out on this assignment. Okay, just one more little bit. If you want to be very abstract with this, as if this project isn't abstract enough, you could completely make a scene from multiple pictures. This is similar to the one that we saw in class that was a flamingo made out of some sort of polygon, and then they had like grass and water, but it was very abstract. So I've created a scene like that from pictures that I have taken over the years. A landscape. We've got a flower in a polygonal shape. We've got grass, a flower stem, mountain range, and sky, but they're all 100% created. So let me show you how I put this together in case this is maybe a method you want to try. If you look over in my layers, I didn't bring the whole picture in for most of these. So for my grass picture, not that one. Okay, there's my clouds picture. I used the rectangular marquee tool, and I just very quickly grabbed what part of the clouds I wanted. Once they were selected, I could use the move tool to drag and drop them into a brand new, just blank document, this untitled one. And then I stretched them to fit. Here's my grass picture. Again, I used the marquee tool, grabbed the selection of grass that I wanted, and I just drag it and drop it in. This is my flower, and I did take this whole picture in because I wanted to be able to manipulate it. So let's go back and look. So here's grass, sky. The flower here is clipped to a shape. So if I turn some of these other ones off, we can see. So the flower picture is here fully, and I needed to make a shape. And I could just freehand one with the polygonal lasso tool, but I wanted it to actually be symmetrical. So I just went to the internet and I got a picture of some shapes. And I found the one that I wanted and I selected it. And this time I used the magic wand tool because it's all orange. So when I clicked the magic wand tool right here, it just makes a selection in the shape of that, what is it, hexagon. And then I don't need this anymore. So at that point, I went and made a new blank layer. And on that layer, I went to Edit, Fill, and I filled that polygon with black. So I'm going to deselect that. So then I had this black shape right here. And once I dragged my flower picture in and clipped them together, then I could decide within that flower picture, what part do I want to show as my flower. And I can decide whatever it is, because we get the idea of a flower. We don't need the whole flower. So those two are clipped together. My flower needed a stem, and I didn't have a picture of a stem, but I had pictures that were green. So this stem picture is actually a lime with bubbles on it. And I just cut out with the marquee tool and dragged and dropped it in here to give my flower a stem. So at this point, I have these pieces. Oh, not that yet. And I thought this was okay, but then I was kind of thinking of other ways I could do this, and I decided to make a mountain range. The mountain range I made out of a rock picture, and I just drew with a polygonal lasso a jagged mountain range shape. I dragged it and dropped it in. And then I thought that wasn't enough, so I added another duplicate layer, And that's what I ended up with.